Welcome back to the Hot Mess to Awesomeness podcast, a show all about inspiring smart, busy women to put their happiness at the top of their to-do list. Join your host and life coach, Dion Thompson, as she chats with amazing women who have figured out how to make their happiness a priority, and more importantly, what it's really like to go from hot mess to awesomeness. And now, on with the show.
Welcome, everyone, to the Hot Mess to Awesomeness podcast. I am your host and life coach, Dion Thompson. And today I have the amazing Alisa Herriman with me today. And I'm pretty excited because you've kind of been part of my world, you know, online. You can stay connected and meet people. And it was kind of like an in and an out. And I don't know if you even remember, but year and a half, maybe even 2 years ago, you had reached out and you were like, hey, you looks like you do some interesting things. Let's chat. I'm like, oh, that is exciting. Because when I looked at all the things that you had done, I'm like, this is someone that I would be really interested in talking to. And we had that first chat and it was like, oh, we just geeked out and it was great. And I loved every minute of it. And I've really, really enjoyed being part of your world online and getting to know you and being part of your community. So I'm very, very grateful to have you here. And you guys are in for a treat because chances are you're like me and you have love of learning as the absolute top of your things to do. And so does Alisa. So we are going to have some fun today. So welcome.
Thank you so much for having me.
It's very exciting and interesting times that we are in right now. So Alisa, maybe let us know a little bit about you and then we'll sort of dive into all the awesome, super nerdy stuff that I love.
I love these conversations just for that exact reason. I'm like, I get to geek out. So I am a nutritionist. I've been teaching nutrition now for the past 15 years. And my journey actually started in the healthcare industry where I wanted to, when I was a little girl, I wanted to be a doctor, but didn't grow up with enough resources to make, med school a possibility. So thought, what's the next best? I'll be a nurse. And started to work my way from personal support worker. My goal was to bridge through to be a nurse. And as I was in that position, all I was seeing was preventable disease. I saw people that had suffered a loss of quality of life to heart attack or strokes or mismanaged diabetes or inflammatory conditions. And I just, knew that wasn't where I wanted to spend my career. So I decided to drop out of that and became a nutritionist. I was determined to teach everyone how to prevent these diseases. And I've been doing that now for 15 years. I've been self-employed that long as well. And I specialize in cancer. So last 12 years, I've focused my practice on nutritional therapy for those going through the cancer process. It's one of the things that I do in my business. And I teach it at Edison Institute of Nutrition. We are the only cancer certification program in Canada. So I get to geek out with a whole bunch of other health practitioners and nurse practitioners and dietitians and chiropractors and really dive into supporting people's ability to heal and repair. So that's kind of who I am, but I also run a big company and always am generating new income streams and really just trying to have as big an impact on health and wellness of people, across our country.
That's brilliant. And I had a little giggle. I don't know if you noticed because I'm always fascinated by some of the parallels that I get to uncover with my guests. And so I have a nutrition degree. And then I went into nursing school and then I promptly left there because I knew I wanted to support others through education. So I'm kind of giggling because I'm like, oh, there's some little parallels there.
I do all three.
Yeah.
So we're friends.
Right. And I can appreciate that so some of us, and I'm wrapping you up into this category with me, have this sort of ability to see things as they're happening and then envisioning what's transpiring as what could transpire as they unfold. And we notice patterns, and we notice again, like kind of like habits, and seeing how things are manifesting and unfolding for people. And then combine that with this insatiable need to take in more information, just want to be like, oh, this would be great for this person and for these individuals and for and this resource could help so many. And for me, and I'm really getting a sense that for you, so the, part of the purpose and to being of service is to be sort of that vessel, that guide. And I know that you have multiple income streams and different things that you do in your business life, but under the umbrella of really that, not just wellness, but being part of the process for people, and being the one that can sort of see at the other end how things can change, and how the impact that can be had on the small, tiny changes that you make or decisions that you make. So again, loving the connection piece. And
I think too, the challenge that we face, especially, in health and wellness, and even like, in our personal businesses, all of that, is there's just so much information. And there's a lot of really good information, evidence-based information, and then there's a lot of really bad information. And I think the unique position that you and I get to be put in is we get to go through that information, digest it, figure out what makes sense, and then share that with other people and position them to make good choices. And that's ultimately all I do, is I gather information, I figure out what's truth versus fad or fact, that sort of, the fad or fact component, what adds value, what can help people. And then we share that with them. And they get to be in a position to make better choices, whether it's, personally, health-wise or professionally.
Absolutely. And it's such a gift. And to be honest, I didn't realize for myself that it was a gift. I really, we each come from our own perspective and understanding of the world. And so my understanding was, I love to read, I love to take in new information and integrate it and then share it. And I kind of just assumed everybody could do that. I'm like, well, who would want to listen to me? They could just go read the 10 books I just read. Right. And then to find out, interesting, not everybody wants to do that. So again, such an important part of sort of the empowerment puzzle, if you will, to be able to digest and integrate and filter for others who either don't have the time, the resources, the energy, or it's not their thing. And then they can trust that you have built a foundation of integrity and quality and fact. And I think that now the next information age, if you will, because so much is out there that you really just can't validate, or it is not something that you can be 100% on. People are turning to individuals like yourself and looking for that guidance, and are really excited when they get to take in the information that they need and then get the results that they are looking for, which I think is such a gift.
Well, I think we're supposed to align with people in our lives who speak to different aspects of our lives. Like I'm not a money coach, right? I have one. It's we need support systems for different areas, and we need people who are experts in those areas to support us. And I think some of the mistakes we make is thinking that I need to know it all, I need to do it all, which only results in overwhelm and little bits of information versus all of it. So it really, we're in an information era. Like you can search anything, and it's very difficult to decide what's opinion based from what is statistically proven or factual.
Right.
So you want to find those people in your lives who can answer those questions, because they are experts. And that's really, one of the things that, I say to people, I'm only a part of your support system. Right. I am not your entire support system.
Right. And you hit on something I think really important that came up recently, is that so many of us, women especially, we have been conditioned and really sort of, I'll say coerced, but this idea of we got to do all the things.
Mm.
We have to be the one who takes care of everything. So I'm the one that's supposed to know all of the pieces for my family members, my, whether it's at work, and if I'm an entrepreneur, then all of that. And then I'm supposed to be able to manage all of that. And it really is this sort of misguided idea that independence is the top of the learning chain, when in reality, there's so much more to that. And we've almost developed a very unhealthy relationship with independence. Like, I am a strong, independent woman. Yeah, you go, Beyonce. And that's not the end, because beyond that is how we connect with the individuals who can add their gifts to us that just make us that much better. And so many women I come across are just don't have the habit of asking for help or being able to receive support. So, they want all the things from either one person because that's about as much they can handle, or they're looking to get it all from themselves somehow. When in reality, it's like, this person, I'm going to pluck their gifts. That's going to make me a little bit more awesome. I'm going to pluck these gifts, and I'm just going to use all of these pieces to enhance this already great thing I have going on, but just make it sort of that much more profound and evolved. And for me, it's such a part of the process that I think not everybody's quite aware of. And you clearly are, as someone who's like, yep, I'm awesome. And I need that person, that person, that person, that person.
Well, the reality, like, two things come up. One is the need to be in control of everything, which honestly only leads to burnout. It leads to overwhelm, anxiety, burnout. You're going to struggle getting good results all the time if it's always on you. And I've learned, and this is like been such a huge learning curve, like professionally for me, but I'm only as good as my community. Right. So the better quality community I have, the better quality conversations I can have, the better quality support I can have, positions me to show up as a better mom, wife, business owner, health practitioner, and I had to let go of feeling like it was all about me, because the reality is, if you're in the service industry, it's actually not about you at all. It's about how are you best serving the people that you're working with, or looking after, or serving. Like, how are you showing up to offer them the best support? And if I'm better supported and I'm nourished and I have good community, then I can show up as a better version for the people that I'm supposed to be helping. And I found that my impact is so much bigger if my own personal community is good, right?
Brilliant. Community is at the core of growth, in my opinion. So I love that you framed it in that fashion, and that you touched on not just the value of the people around you, but the strength and the core foundation that is you, which of course is a big part of your business as a nutritionist. But I know that for you, that goes beyond just healthy eating. It's sort of that healthy, holistic living, and the energy that you surround yourself with, whether that is in community or environment, or just things that you invite in. Such a crucial piece. And I believe that it's those foundational pieces that if you're feeling like there's too much, there's so many things I'm supposed to pay attention to. I got the environment, I got to eat, I got to exercise, I got to take care of the kid, right? But really often, if you can just just look down and go, what is the thing that I can maybe tap into a little bit every day that will fortify my foundation? So that could be healthy eating. That if that's, the go-to, it could be just drinking a glass of water. It could be, a grounding practice, journaling, or a walk, or something of that nature. So I'm interested, what is it that you tap into as far as your continuing to build and fortify your foundation?
So community is definitely, like we just talked about, I surround myself with women who are also high achievers, but also support systems as well. I'm not afraid to ask for help or have conversations, brainstorm, mastermind. That's definitely a big thing. I have and this is relatively new, like in 2020, I decided that I needed to have more balance and mindset practices. So I was one of those people that loves meditation. I love prayer. I love, digging into that kind of stuff, but I would just find time. And a week would go by and
Where is that time exactly?
I hadn't found time, or, you get that weird, like 15 minutes before the kids would get home from school, and that would be my time. And so I had to, this year I decided when COVID hit, I actually was like, what a great opportunity to build a mindfulness practice. And even though I thought that I had integrated that professionally, I being consistent, having a set morning routine around it has really, really just helped me have better perspective, prioritize the things that are the most important for my day, have that gratitude practice. I listen to things that, reprogram my mind, because all of us have fearful, doubtful thinking. We all, question our own judgments. It doesn't matter how successful you are, it shows up.
Right.
So really making sure that I'm actively programming the right thoughts into my brain. And that's, I get up, I have a shower, I get out of the shower, and I listen to an audiobook on mindset while I get ready.
Right.
And then I go down to my office, I have, morning breakfast with the kids, and then I go into my office and I have, prayer, meditation time. That can be 30 minutes, 15 minutes, an hour, depending on what my morning looks like. And then my day starts. Right. So I think the combination of just being purposely choosing good community, because it really is something that you have to identify who are the people that I want to speak into my life.
Right.
So purposely choosing good community and then having some good mindset practices has really been, probably the biggest part of what helps me show up as the best version of me.
Brilliant. And as a massive advocate for words and the power that they hold, even just to change the statement, I'm going to carve out time, not find time, right? Even just the small shifts in how you frame up what you're wanting to do, using language that moves you towards what you want doesn't necessarily push you away from what you don't want, right? There's lots of power in those pieces, which then just sort of in a very meta way makes that mindset practice even deeper. So, and I love that is, that's been I would say maybe a small shift for you, but that it's had this impact. I remember I had posted my little insight timer. Yay, I did 100 meditations. And you're like, yay, I've been doing it for a while too. There's like 170. I'm like, yes, it's a powerful piece, but it can be so tiny. And again, often when we think of change, it's like this big thing, right? It's like I gotta do what? My entire lifestyle's got to flip upside down. But really, it's just about the small, tiny, tiny things. And I often tell people, your inner critic, all that negative self-talk, it's looking for the big things to derail. It's missing the little things. You can kind of circumvent the chatter. And I'm just gonna take 10 minutes just to do this thing. Yeah, I didn't hear a thing. Okay, good. And then you're installing that practice regularly. And then the ripple effect, of course, is, as you know, is intense, massive.
Well, I think one of the challenges specifically for women and high achieving women is, we wake up, like I remember my feet would hit the floor. My day was chasing me. Like, the amount of to-dos I had, the responsibilities with my kids, my marriage had to matter somewhere along the way as well. And, then I got all these client responsibilities and I have these different businesses that I'm growing. And it was just like, it was really just a lot of chaos all day long. And then I'd go to bed, I'd crash and get up and it would start all over. So what I've really found, with this mindfulness piece is it's really allowed me to take back control. I own my time, my business and my time doesn't own me. and to really approach my day from a more centered place, but also a much, much more productive place, because I don't get out of, my prayer. And I have like a little corner in my office set up, and I don't get out of my little prayer meditation chair until I know what are my top 3 or 5 priorities today. And then those are the things that, are the non-negotiable. I might still have meetings and appointments and that sort of thing, but there's going to be 3 to 5 things that are really important for me to be productive today. And I don't go to bed until they're done. Sometimes it's like 9:30 at night, everyone's gone to their rooms in bed, and I got to sneak back into the office to tie up a loose end.
Right.
But I used to, and I don't know how many of your viewers, or if you ever dealt with this, but I would make a list of 20 or 30 items I had to do. And then the next day I would just carry over 19 or 30 of those items to the next day.
Right. And then add the new ones.
And then add a couple more.
Yeah.
And then look down and go, okay, what one is the easiest for me to get off my plate right now? And I just kept carrying forward. It was like carrying around 100 pounds all day, every day, and choosing to pick up that weight and carry it forward. So really prioritizing, what are the 3 most important things? Sometimes it's 5, I have a busy business. What are the most important things that I need to accomplish today? And then at the end of the day, I'm like, I had a good day.
Yeah, that is brilliant. Somebody said, or I heard something once, that if there's more than, let's say 5, but more than 3 or so things on your priority list, then nothing's a priority. And right, because we, and we really set ourselves up to crash, because it's like inviting our inner critic to go, look at how much you suck. You didn't do any of these 19 things, negating whatever you may have done, and totally deleting what you did that wasn't on the list, right? Because you're still a mom, an entrepreneur, things are happening. You took a call, that call was monumental, but it didn't produce something. So you're like, well, what did I do? And of course, what you're doing is so powerful. And again, just set the intention, make a decision, know why you're making the decision, looking at, okay, so there's the laundry list, but what are the 3 to 5 things that are going to be the things that are non-negotiable, that need to get done, and why? Well, here are my values, and this is my, this is what I want, linking it to the bigger goals. I often see clients who get stuck in like procrastination mode. And I'm like, well, one of the easiest ways out of that is to get out of the monotony of whatever it is that you have to do, and remind yourself why. Like, why are you doing it? I will jump up and do the dishes when I attach it to my larger pieces of family connection, love, support, all of those things. And then I get to do these small things that then enhance the bigger thing that I want. So fantastic. So thank you so much for sharing that, because it's powerful and doable.
And one of the things that I still do, and I've always done in my business, is a Sunday night game plan. And it's where I just grab, it's kind of a brain dump. I grab a piece of paper and I make a list of what are all the things that are really important to me this week coming. What are the things that, I want to get done, the people I want to connect with, the follow-ups I have to do, and then I will take that Sunday night game plan, and then I'll take like 1 or 2 items and say, okay, this is an item for Monday. This is an item for Tuesday. This is, so when I do my priority activity, I'm not forgetting about the big list. I'm not avoiding it. I'm recognizing that once a week, but I'm chunking it out. And then I'm also allowing room for the things that come up during the week that, are the distraction things from a big list. Right. So I do find that having kind of that Sunday night game plan space takes like 15 minutes to just be like, okay, what are some priorities? Where am I going to plug them in this week? And a lot of times for the Sunday night game plan items, I actually schedule them like a client. So and that's something like when you build multiple businesses, like it's not just time blocks. I'm a big time blocker, but it's actually like, I need to do this activity, and I'm going to dedicate 9:15 to 9:45 just for this activity. And then when I look at my calendar, it's non-negotiable, like seeing a client. Right. And that has helped.
That's brilliant. When I first stepped into entrepreneur land, which is only a few years ago, I'd done some training as we do, and uncovered that I'm not that I'm surprised by this, but I'm a bit of a doer, right? I'm good with the details and the tasks and the lists and all of those things. And, my mentor at the time said, well, you need to hire a CEO for your company, which by the way is you.
Mm.
So you need to put that intentionally, carve out that time, put on that big picture thinker hat,
Mm-hmm.
and sit down with yourself and go, what are we looking at here, Dion? We got all of this, and then there's the brrr underneath all of those things.
Mm-hmm.
So where are you going to put Dion the worker, and how are you going to, plan her out?
Mm-hmm.
So that when I'm in it doing the do, I'm not because I'll get overwhelmed if I look up and go, oh my God, I have all these things to do.
Yes.
And when really it was an intentional time, change the hats, this is a big picture moment, and looking at the goals and looking ahead. So whether that's weekly or monthly, I mean, for everybody, it would be different depending on your business. And I think it's, when I got that bit, I was like, that's brilliant. I can do both things. My knee-jerk reaction is to do the doing. So I have to make sure that in my calendar, it is carved out, like you said, I love the Sunday night game plan. That's fantastic. And it's non-negotiable, because your business, your life, truly, regardless of whether you have a business or you have the business of family or the business of just functioning as a human, then, and if you have goals, you may miss the mark. You may find yourself sort of feeling like you're treading water and not moving forward, because you haven't either given yourself the big picture moment, or maybe you haven't given yourself the go do moment. A colleague of mine, she's the big picture thinker, and she has to task herself to okay, go and do the things. And then you get to look up, but go and do the things, right?
It really is, mindset, planning, and action. Those three in that order, where's your head at around, your business? What are you thinking? I have conversations. I do a lot of business coaching just because I run a sales team. And, when frustration comes up in those conversations, I'll be like, what are you telling yourself? There's a conversation that you are having with you that you might not even recognize. And I'll get them throughout the day to grab a pen and paper. And I'm like, just keep it handy. And, the moment you think about your business, what is the thoughts, and write it down and let's discuss it. Because we have to identify, our mindset determines our actions, which determines our results. So if we're not taking action, we're procrastinating, there might be something we're telling ourselves about this that is preventing that. And then once you get the mindset piece in place, then you gotta have a game plan. Yeah. Like sports teams don't go out on the field and they're like, hey guys, we're gonna
do it.
This goes well. Like,
what do you do again? Okay, I'm sure it's fine.
Right? Everybody has a game plan to follow. Yeah. And then from there, you action it out.
Yes.
And those three pieces really have to be in place. And, there's so many times that I've been in planning mode and no action, no mindset, or all mindset, no planning, no action. Like we all will hang out in the one that feels the most comfortable at the time of life or position of our business that we're in.
Right.
Really, really has to be all three.
Absolutely. And it's interesting, I'm sure you're familiar with Simon Sinek, and he had said, people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it, but you still need to have a what. Right. So, I'm a big fan of start with why. And I love the idea of engaging in relationship building based on mutual connection and value positioning. But then there's a how. And I'm a how person. I love process. I love observing process. I love breaking down processes. And so I'm like, yeah, you and I were on the same page with the why. We're there. How are we going to do this? Oh, that's exciting. And we break that down. But if you don't implement a what, like if you don't actually do anything, that's all for naught. So again, knowing your knee jerk, like knowing where you like to land, and then going, I need a why person and I need a what person. Okay, good.
And having that, then that comes into your community support. If you're really struggling with one of them, you need to find someone who's going to speak into that for you. I find that I'm rarely am I all three equally. it really just depends on the season, what's, happening, what I'm excited about, what my goals or vision is, and if I recognize that I'm hitting a moment of frustration or I feel like I'm stuck, I know, hey, I'm not doing the mindset work.
Right.
And if I'm just busy doing to-dos and nothing's changing, then I know the game plan needs to be strengthened, right? Or maybe I have the game plan, but nothing's unfolding. Then I know it's the action piece. So it's really just recognizing, what one do I need to put a little bit of extra time in? And how do I make sure all three show up in my business every single week?
So what is your practice then? Obviously, because in my mind, I just heard, well, you're obviously reflecting on where things are working and not working.
Mm-hmm.
Is that a daily practice for you? Is it part of the Sunday night game plan? When do you do those check-in moments?
So the mindset's every morning.
Mhm.
That's important. Gratitude list. Sometimes I'm just rewriting my goals. But there is a definite focus before I even dive into showing up in my business. Game plan is once a week. I find that works really well for me. If I get into game planning too much, I pull myself out of action.
Right.
So the once a week, 4 times a month, Sunday nights is just routine. It's been routine in my business for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
And then the action is daily, having those top 3, sometimes 5. And when I say I got 5 things, I don't got 5 projects I'm working on.
Right.
2 of those things might be 2 calls that I need to make, that are 15 minutes, but they're priorities because it's important that I follow up with those people.
Mm-hmm.
And they're always action items that are not all, I shouldn't say not always, but a lot of times they're not in my schedule. But, number 1 might already be scheduled. So it's just kind of like, I have a schedule that I follow. I'm very, very boundaried with my time.
Mm-hmm.
I never used to have on and off time. It was kind of like, I'm an entrepreneur, man. Like
Right.
when it comes in, I'm taking it because I don't know if there's more coming. An attitude. I lived in that for years. And I really honestly suffered from burnout because I had no on and off. I was always on in my business.
Right.
And I would try to fit my family into that.
Sure. You squeeze you in here.
I have very firm on and off time now. And, it changes day by day. It changes week by week. I don't follow the same. I'm not the type of person who wants to follow the same schedule every single day. And that really helps. Like when I'm done my work, it's it. And, if, for example, yesterday I was done at 4:00, but I had to teach a webinar last night. So between 4:00 and 8:00 was family time.
Right.
And I was present. And then 8:00 hit and put on my business hat and went and did my webinar.
I think that's brilliant. For the entrepreneurs again, or someone just managing a variety of hats,
Mm-hmm.
really being intentional about where you are in the moment, like so that you're not, you don't run the risk of this is somewhere where your body is somewhere else.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
For me, I notice that doing that can really trigger some poor reactions for me. And I call it my shame storm. So I'll be just doing my thing, mom mode, everybody's fine, kids are doing whatever. And then either like an email will come in or a text, or I'll just think about, oh no, I didn't do the blah, blah, blah. And then before I even know what's happening, I'm yelling at my kids.
Yeah.
Because it's like a
Mm-hmm.
visceral response because
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't actually present. My body was there and I'm like doing the thing. But the boundary didn't exist. So the different pieces start to like overlap. It's not that I, want to not deal with things. It's just there's a time and place, and being really clear about that is important. And just making that little switch, which can be huge for a lot of people, can have such a massive impact on your energy level, or even your self-worth, because how you feel about because there's the guilt that comes up with the fact that I just yelled at my kids and they didn't do anything different than they did 10 minutes ago. Such a huge thing. And just to sort of come back to some of the elements of your business, the other thing that's been really, really impactful for me is, again, sort of creating a body that can manage those fluctuations, that can manage sort of those shifts in emotions and in state, by shifting the way that I treat my body and that I care for it nutritionally and emotionally, and even mentally. And so I'm interested in that part of your journey as well, because I know that you have made a massive shift. And even just talking earlier before we hit record about glasses, I think everybody needs to know that, by the way, about the impact of like creating the space, literally the body, that can then be the person that you sort of envision in your mind.
Well, that what do we have if we don't have our health? Right? And you can be the brightest, smartest, most successful person, but if you don't have your health, right? So I think, what's really, really important to recognize, as a health practitioner. So I was lucky enough to become a business owner and be a health practitioner at the same time. So, recognizing the value of both. And sometimes I know how I have a lot of clients who are entrepreneurs who never prioritize looking after their body. The business, all the responsibilities came first, and then their health breaks down. And now they're kind of forced to do something about it. So it's definitely important to be proactive. And our body always wants to be in a state of health, but it depends on how we treat it and what we feed it as to whether or not that environment is going to allow that. One of the things I teach, through nutrition is, most diseases need an environment to exist in. Right? So how you treat the environment is going to determine whether or not it's going to be conducive to the growth and development of disease. Most cancers are not genetic, which means they're environmental and lifestyle. Cardiovascular disease is entirely preventable. Type 2 diabetes is entirely preventable. So, these things are a result of lifestyle, and they're a result of not having time to carve out to prioritize our physical health. And let me tell you, I have so much energy. I get up early, I work all day, I have 4 kids. I have a very full, very fun, busy life, and I don't have any sort of fatigue or exhaustion. I recognize when things are out of balance, and I'm able to adjust that. Most people that I deal with are exhausted. They're overwhelmed, they're stressed, anxiety showing up, they have digestive challenges. And all of these things affect how you get to show up, which is why treating your body well and having some sort of health support is just crucial to long-term success. Our brain doesn't fire and receive messages without nutrients being present. Right?
It's interesting, me included, really built a habit of being disconnected. I used to call it like the meat suit that carries the brain around. And it was this other thing. So I'm a smart person and I can envision and create and do those things, but negated what was happening. And then as a result, you can get into the habit of externalizing the control. So it's this thing's problem, not even so much people, but like it's the environment, it's this thing. And what we were saying before is like, well, I'm the lobster in a pot. It's like I don't notice that I'm the one that's here making all the decisions to stay here, and all of a sudden I'm a big old red lobster. And coming back to what we had mentioned earlier about some of those foundational practices